Anger is an obstacle to the miracle. I don't have time to spend on that this morning, but suffice to say, anger has done and continues to do great damage in the lives of people, even in the lives of God's people, even to this day. It's one thing you cannot afford. There's a reason why the Scripture says, do not let the sun go down on your wrath. There's a reason for that. So do not allow anger to come in, because when anger comes in and sets up shop, it's going to invite the rest of the family, which includes bitterness and all those kind of things. You can't afford it. It is an obstacle. Anger is an obstacle to the miracle of God in your life. Verse 11, he was furious. He went away. In other words, he left. He was angry and he stormed out. He left. Second obstacle, expectations. Watch what he said. Naaman became furious and went away, and he said to himself, indeed, I said to myself, he will surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God and wave his hand over the place and heal the leprosy. These expectations are reasonable, aren't they? There's nothing unreasonable about what Naaman expected. He's a general. He's a commander of the Syrian army. He is an important man. These expectations are not unrealistic, and they are not unreasonable, but they are also not in God's plan. He had his expectations of the way things have to go. Now, let me tell you something. You can have a hindrance and an obstacle in your life to receiving what you need from God simply because you have your expectations of how it has to go down. We don't come to God on our terms. We don't come to Him with our set of lists of how things have to go. We come to Him on His terms, in His time, in His way, and that's how the miracle happens. That's how we receive from God. So an obstacle is expectation. Now, you can't get away from expectations. You're going to have expectations. What is the point? The point is, do not let your expectations dictate whether or not you receive from God. Because God may work a different way for you than what you thought. Indeed, I said to myself. Number 3, there's another obstacle. Pride. Do you hear it in his voice? He will surely come out to moi. Surely he will come out in person. And I'm sure he was expecting Elisha not just to come out, but I'm sure he was expecting Elisha to come out and just, oh, Naaman is so wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for, coming into my humble abode. I'm sure that he's used to being treated that way. He's got pride that says he will surely come out to me. I know in his mind, if you want to translate it over into 2009 junior high English, when the servant came out to the door and said what he said to Naaman, in the back of Naaman's mind, the phrase popped up, no, he did not. I know he didn't just send a servant out here to tell me something. You hear the pride? You hear the pride? Story is told of a turtle who wanted to spend the winter in Florida, but he knew he would never be able to walk that far. So he got a bright idea, and he convinced a couple of geese to help him out. Each taking one end of a piece of rope, while the turtle clamped his vice-like jaws in the middle of the rope. Off they flew to Florida for winter. All the other animals were looking and going, that is the most incredible thing I have ever seen. That is ingenious. Who thought of that? And the turtle Hold on. The turtle could not stop himself from saying, I did. Scripture says pride goeth before a fall. And that's just one way it can happen. An obstacle to the miracle of God in your life is pride. You can't afford it. The next obstacle that you can have is the obstacle of reason. You ever have God do something that didn't make any sense? Even if he ended up doing what you needed him to do or wanted him to do, and he did it in a way that didn't make any sense, reason, now you don't have to check your brain at the door to serve God, but I am going to tell you this. There's going to be some times when God doesn't work the way you think makes sense. Naaman needed a miracle. He needed it from God, and God was the only source, but Naaman wanted it on his terms. Look what he said in verse 12. He's like, if I was going to dip in a river, are not the Abana and the Pharpar rivers of Damascus better than any river that you guys have around here anywhere? Couldn't I just wash in them and be clean? He's rationalizing why he knows better than God what needs to happen. I know that you've never done that, but you may know someone who has, and this will help them when you tell it to them later. Reason can become an obstacle to the miracle of God. But we don't leave it there. There is another facet of the story that we need to get to, the best part actually, and that is that the obedience brings the miracle. After he had his tantrum, after he squalled his chariot tires and burned up the road, after he reasoned that this guy should not have treated me like that, he should have come out at least spoken to me in person. After he had reasoned, look, if I'm going to dip in water, I want to dip in water I want to dip in, not this nasty Jordan River. After he'd gone through all that process, and I will say this to somebody today, a lot of this is a process. You will find yourself in the process. If you ever get to a fork in the road when you don't understand, when you do not understand what in the world is going on. Now, I've been there, done that, got the t-shirts hanging in the closet where we're saying, Lord, I do not understand this. I do not understand why we are here at this part of the road. When you go through all of this process, let me give you a clue where you're going to get. You're going to get to the place where you have two choices. You either choose to quit and give up on God, or you choose to continue to walk. That's it.